Anybody volunteer?
God takes a stand in his own congregation. He judges in the midst of the rulers. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Vindicate the weak and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and destitute. Rescue the weak and needy. Deliver them out of the hand of the wicked. They do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High. Nevertheless, you will die like men, and fall like any one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for it is thou who dost possess all the nations.
So a lot of translations soften it because it's.
I got the ESV.
Would you read that, please?
That makes a world of difference because I'm seeing something totally different.
Yes.
Maybe we should be using the ESV.
Please read verse 1.
God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. That's just totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine says, Elohim stands in the congregation of El. He judges in the midst of the Elohim.
What do you have?
The scriptures.
Yep. Elohim stands in the congregation of El. He judges in the midst of the Elohim. So, congregation is Be'adat, which just means a gathering. So, when you hear that word Edat, it can be translated congregation. It can be translated gathering. Right now we're in Edat. We are in Edat. Right now, here today, we're in Edat. We have gathered for a distinct purpose. And what it literally says, you've ever heard of Michael Heiser, when he was working on his doctorate in Semitic language, somebody sat down next to him in church one day and said, hey, have you ever read this in Hebrew? He said his life changed that morning because his whole world got rocked. Because here's what it says in Hebrew. Elohim natsav ve'edat el. Elohim, God, natsav, takes his stand. Be'edat, in congregation, El.
In the gathering of
Else.
gods.
Gods. In this gathering of gods. Wow. And it's a psalm of Asaph. I have learned to love Asaph and those psalms and the ones we're reading. If I don't oversleep, we have a prayer group at 6 in the morning. And we're praying through.
When you don't oversleep.
Yeah. Oh.
So we're,
You have to train.
and when I look at this, and if I jump down to verse 6, there's something else that pops out. I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men, you shall die and fall like any prince. If I put this in context in a time period, it almost sounds like this all happened before there was an earth. Do you see that?
Possibly.
Doesn't. Where do you see that? It's possible, but I don't see.
But look what he judges them on. Okay? Give right ruling to the poor and fatherless. Do right to the afflicted and needy. Rescue the poor and needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wrong. Those are his same standards. Those are the same standards he gave Israel. When we read about the standards God gave to Israel, he's expressing his character. He's not making up rules for Israel. He's saying, this is who I am. So if you're my chosen group, you should be like me. You should look like me. So you be like this because this is what I'm like.
Amen.
And he's railing on these high-level spiritual beings, and we're going to get into who they are now. Even though you're sons of God, you're going to die like men. He would, if I looked at everybody here and I said, you're all so sinful, you're going to die like men, would that be any shocker?
No.
No.
So they must be angels.
Must be something that to die like a human being is a huge, huge judgment.
Curse. Yeah.
A huge curse. Even though you're my sons, you're gonna die like men. Wow.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Because I was reading that and I'm trying to understand. God has taken his place in the divine council. Okay. I say you are gods. Who say that about who? You are gods. I say you are gods.
Oh, yeah, I'm not on my computer, no.
Okay, God.
God has taken his place.
Okay.
So he's speaking.
Doesn't work.
He's speaking.
Yeah.
God.
In
God.
the midst of the gods.
So then,
Gosh, for years I worked in healthcare management, and I was always on Windows systems at work. But my whole setup at home, if it has an I in front of it, I've got everything. I'm an Apple geek, so I live and work in an Apple environment. I'm at my desk one morning with two of the people that were my direct reports, and I'm going, this thing's broken. And Kelly's just staring at me like, you need coffee. So he's speaking. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Here he is holding judgment. He's speaking about them. He's describing them to us.
and who were all that people? The sons of God.
He's speaking to the sons
the
of
sons
God.
of
'cause
God. That was not the generation of Israel,
No,
other
no.
This
generation.
is some other sons of God.
The Elohim.
The Elohim,
Back to generous.
the Elohim of the other nations, are real beings.
Fallen angels.
Yeah.
They're demons.
Back to that, would those have been, as heroes and warriors of ancient times? Would those have been? Would they have called them gods? Like, is that where the gods they worshipped came from them? They actually existed. Is
That's my
my
thing.
like Baal? All those weren't
Well,
supposed to say, but
As
Well, they
well
were-
as mythological
They
gods.
were
exactly.
Which I would have paid a
particular
lot
Greek.
more attention in school if I thought they really were
I thought
something
it
in the
was
Bible.
all-
I thought it was against the Bible and
Those
not real.
particular ones, correct me if I'm wrong,
Greek gods.
were offspring of Elohim and human.
Yes.
The Nephilim.
The Nephilim.
Yes.
But they
And-
were the giants of old that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the heroes of old.
They were half and half
Yeah.
like Thor.
Yeah.
So remember how Hebrew nouns come out of verbs? Naphal, he falls.
The fallen angel.
Nephilim,
The fallen ones.
The fallen angel.
Nephilim is a participle, a verbal noun. The ones who have fallen,
The fallen ones.
fallen ones.
Have all the Nephilim fallen? Here where he's talking about judging the gathering of the Nephilim, he's telling them to do justice. Are there some who
No,
have
the
not?
Nephilim were the combined human sons
They
of
were
God
the
beings.
fruit.
Oh, okay.
They were the fruit.
Yeah.
I meant to say,
How-
to ask, have all the Elohim
Fruit.
fallen?
That-
Or are there some Elohim?
No, there's some sons of God who haven't fallen. We see them in Daniel, for example. I've got that on the list here.
Yeshua talks about us becoming sons of God. The sons
Oh, and here's a cool thing.
So-
Throw this out and then we'll go back to this. And I'm doing this not to try and stir up all kinds of things, but I'm doing this
Please
to
do.
demonstrate that our God is totally unique in the entire universe. He is set apart from anything else, doesn't even come close. When Scripture calls him God of gods and Lord of lords, it's referencing this. It's not referencing just like he's King of kings. He's God of gods. It's
He's
referencing.
on top.
Yeah.
On top of
Can I make a
everything,
comment?
everyone.
Go for it, Dan.
So I keep hearing fallen angels, and the way I've learned is angels are messengers of God. So the fallen aren't necessarily fallen angels. They're the fallen gods, beings. Not necessarily angels, because we ourselves could be angels because we're messengers of God. So
Always context driven. So we have two words in the Bible for a messenger. In Hebrew, it's malak. Malkim, plural. In Greek, it's angelos. What does angelos sound like?
Angel.
We don't translate that. We transliterate it. It's like baptism. We don't translate that. Baptism comes from baptizo, which is the Greek verb for immersing,
So we just
not sprinkling.
transliterate it instead of translate.
Yeah, so we transliterate it. So turn to 1 Kings 22. If Elohim stands in the congregation of El, if he judges in the midst of the Elohim, is there anywhere that actually shows this to us?
1 Kings what?
22. Start at 19. And I'm going to ask somebody to read this. 1 Kings 22, 19 through 23. I remember the day when I found this and I went, there it is. There it is. So here's the context. King of Israel is speaking to Jehoshaphat. Micaiah the prophet has come in. He says, didn't I tell you he wouldn't say anything nice about me? Didn't I warn you? We'll start at verse 19. That's a better spot. Yeah, that's what I said, 19.
And he said, Hear thou therefore the word of Jehovah. I saw Jehovah sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left.
Hold on. Who's standing around him?
The host of heaven.
Host of heaven.
Psalm 82. God stands
In the council.
in the council, in the midst of the Elohim. He renders judgment. Go ahead.
And so Jehovah said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this matter, and another said on that manner. And there came forth a spirit and stood before Jehovah, and said, I will persuade him. And Jehovah said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets, of all his prophets. And he said, Thou shalt persuade him. Prevail also, go forth and do so. Now therefore, behold, Jehovah has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and Jehovah has spoken evil concerning thee.
What is this a picture of? What is Micaiah seeing?
That's counsel.
He's seeing this, what's called in some translations, the divine council. Imagine a king without a court. These are his courtiers. And there are courtiers that, and notice this, the Spirit says, I'll go be a lying spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets. He goes, okay, go do it. He's got to get permission
From Elohim.
from our El. The
Well,
God,
the Devodah,
yeah, he's got to get permission to go and do it.
he had two kings.
Okay, I give you permission. Go and do this. And we're going to pick this up in Paul in just a couple minutes here. So what is unique about our God? What are we seeing here? Who does he have command over?
All the gods.
All of them.
They're all standing up and he's sitting down on his throne.
Yeah. And in Ephesians especially, we see Messiah seated where?
In
At the
heavenly
right
places.
hand.
At the right hand.
Seated at his right hand, we're going to get into this, far above all rule, authority, power, and dominion, and every name that is named in this age. The first time I ever prayed for someone and saw them get healed, I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. And God brought that text to my mind. And it was a young man by the name of Isaiah that had inoperable, untreatable leukemia. And they given him a short time to live. And God revealed this to me. Leukemia is a name from this age. It's a man-given name. It's a name of something that exists on this planet at this time, which will have no existence in the kingdom of God. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So his mom and I took authority over the name of leukemia. I had no idea what I was doing, but it seemed like it fit. Because if he's seated in the heavenly places far above all rule, authority, power, and dominion, and every name named in this age, and also in the age to come, doesn't matter when, we took authority over. And she knew the Latin name of this type of leukemia. And it was about 6 weeks later, I hadn't seen her. And I'm on the prayer team at the Rock, and I'm standing down front waiting for people to come down for prayer after our meeting. And she's coming down the aisle bawling. And I start shaking, going, oh no, he died. What do I do now? That's what I'm thinking inside. And she comes up. She gives me this big hug. My neck gets wet. She pushes me back and she goes, he's been in 3 times now. They can't figure out why they ever gave him the diagnosis.
There must be something wrong. We'll find it if we look.
Make something up.
So if our Messiah, our Yeshua, is seated at the right hand of this God, that's the side of power. Far above all rule, authority, power, and dominion, those are ranks of these sons of God that Paul lays out very carefully.
And we're going to sit on that throne with him if we overcome.
Yeah.
That's
an
incredible part.
Well, the term your right-hand man, that's someone that you
Yeah.
trust.
So you trust, you've empowered them.
Yeah.
I had the position of being the right-hand man in a corporation, deputy director. I had all the authority except the authority to sign a contract. So I could act on behalf of the whole organization except sign a contract.
That
It's
reminds
a trusted position.
That reminds me of Joseph in Egypt.
Yes.
He was the right-hand man of Pharaoh, and everyone bowed the knee, but only in the throne was he not above him.
Yes.
So Joseph, and he's a type of Yeshua.
Nailed it.
When you talk about this, when you talk about his courtiers and some good and some bad, now it makes sense why there's going to be a new heaven.
Oh,
It always made sense why there would be a renewed earth, but I never could understand why is God making heaven new? What will he make heaven new?
Because there's some house cleaning left to be done there too.
Right.
Yeah. Get out the Swiffer.
There's going.
We're mopping it up.
Isn't it true that there will be exchanges of where they ruled, human beings will be taking their place?
Think of this. In the Hebrew scriptures, we're called servants of God, and angels are messengers.
So what are we?
We are called sons of God,
We become messengers.
and the messengers are our servants.
Yeah.
There's this whole
Put two and
switch.
two together.
Yeah.
We'll be
So-
judging angels, right? Too. It's
Yeah.
Somewhere we're going to judge.
We'll be what?
angels. We'll be judging.
Judging the angels.
We will be
Which-
judging.
Which ones?
The fallen ones.
So let me just read this out of Daniel 10. Note it down for later. We're familiar with this. This is, the angel who's come to talk to Daniel. He says, I've been sent to you. Daniel, fear not, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God,
2 weeks ago.
your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. 10:13. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days.
3 weeks.
But Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia.
He must be the right hand.
There's a battle going on in the heavenlies.
The right hand of the.
This messenger is probably, from the same level. Paul talks about rulers, authorities, powers, dominions. And they're withstanding each other, and he's not winning the fight, so Michael comes to get these princes of Persia out of the way so that this messenger can now come to Daniel. We're seeing behind the curtain again. Just like we did in 1 Kings 22. What's unique about our God? He's in charge of the whole thing.
All the time.
He's the CEO of the corporation. Doesn't matter if you're an executive vice president, he's the CEO.
You see that in Job 1 and 2 also, in the council
Mm-hmm.
in Job.
That's the last place on my list.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So 10:13, 10:20, listen to this. Then he said, "Do you know why I've come to you? But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I go out, behold, the prince of Greece will come." So what do we have? We have a son of God where a nation has been divided to that entity. We have a name for it, for this being. It's the prince of Persia. When God divided the nations, he divided them according to the sons of God. This is the Son of God, the high-ranking spiritual being to whom Persia was divided, or whatever Persia was at that time.
And then Greece had one too.
And Greece had one too. It's a picture of him dividing the nations to these powers.
You know,
And that was in Psalm what? 98, where we first looking? 82.
82.
in the pagans' world, they understand this because
Yeah.
they have a territorial area where their god exists, you know. And so you go to another part of the same country, or you go to another country and there's a different god because that's a different territory, you know.
And so we see that, you know, Scripture will open up to all of us, hopefully, a little bit differently than it has in the past. You've got Naaman. Comes to Israel to be healed, right? He's a king from where?
From Syria.
From Syria. And he's got Sa'arat. It's not leprosy.
Skin disease.
Leprosy doesn't grow on the walls of houses. In Hebrew, it's called Sa'arat. We don't know what it is today. I don't think we know what it is today because God doesn't manifest himself physically on the planet as he did at the temple or the tabernacle. We can't imagine what that was like to go in the tabernacle and see him manifested as this pillar of fire. Looking at him, David says, to behold the beauty of the Lord and inquire in his temple. We don't know what that looks like.
And those people saw that, and still they were following other gods.
Yeah.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. So Paul gets into this in Ephesians 1, 19 and 20. Let me read 19, 20, and 21. What is the immeasurable greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his great might? Put that in the context now of these other powerful spirit beings. What is the immeasurable greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his great might, that he worked in Messiah when he raised him from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places, far above all rule, authority, power, and dominion, in every name that's named, not only in this age, but in the age to come. I've gone through that verse more times than I could ever put together, and I never thought of, wait a minute, what is Paul saying? What's the difference between a rule and authority and a power and dominion? So I went and looked it up. The Greek word for rule is arche. We get archaeology from it. It means to be very old, and it means a leader. So it's someone who's in a position of leadership.
Archangel.
Yeah. An arche of the messengers, a leader of the messengers. Michael, the leader of the messengers, comes to defeat the prince of Persia. I'm going to skip authority for a second. Power is dunamis. We get dynamite from that.
Dunamis, yeah.
It's the power to perform a miracle. Dominion is the power of lordship. The one I skipped was authority. Exousia is the power of a judicial decision.
A judge.
Think of what we saw in 1 Kings 22. When he said to that spirit, go and do this, that spirit was an exousia because it had the power to carry out his judicial decision.
That reminds me when you go into court and the judge walks in, what does everybody do?
They rise.
Yeah. And they arise because of this idea that he has authority, he has power. You know.
Be nice.
Don't mouth off to him, or you'll end up in jail.
Oh my
Like
God.
one of my friends did, you know.
Oh,
No.
So,
sorry.
I have a question, Steve. In Daniel 10, where this being is talking to Daniel, says, I was delayed by this war or battle for 3 weeks, and now I have to go back to the battle, and Michael is going to come help. Who was that speaking? Was that Jesus or not?
No.
Or do we know?
No.
No.
Those the Prince of Persia, the Prince of Greece are some of these rulers,
but who was
authorities,
the-
powers, and dominions.
Who was the guy talking to Daniel?
It was a spiritual being.
We don't know
It
who
was
it
a
was.
messenger.
Messenger.
That messenger isn't named.
Right.
Yeah. No, that messenger didn't get named. So he's
So,
a
I
nameless
guess
messenger.
I feel like Jesus could have won that battle just like that. Did Jesus ever engage in, I mean, some places where it talks about the angel of God, or what was it?
Angel of the Lord.
The angel of the Lord. That, do you believe that was Jesus?
When it says the,
The
translate
angel
that.
of the Lord.
Translate that. The
Messenger
messenger.
of the Lord.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother subject we could spend easily a day on. But one of the most interesting things to me is when you go to the Targums. The Targums are the Torah written in Aramaic. Here's what the Targum version of Genesis 3 says. And when they heard the sound of the word of the Lord walking in the midst of the garden, when Abraham has lunch with the three beings at the tent, one of whom is named Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, it's the word of the Lord that comes to talk to
And who is the word of
Abraham.
Yahweh?
Yeah, who's the word of Jehovah? So, you know, the Aramaic was the common Bible of the time when Jesus was here. Everybody knew the Aramaic. That's what's circulating around. You got to Hebrew where? In the synagogue or in Hebrew school.
Yeah.
The Chosen does a really good job of Hebrew school in that whole series of setting that off a little bit. The really intellectual people would deal with the Septuagint because they'd learned Greek so that they could know the Septuagint. So Aramaic was the common tongue in first century Israel. So when John wrote, and the Word became flesh, everybody went, oh, in the beginning was the Word. Oh yeah, I've read about him all the way through the scriptures. Everywhere you see Jehovah interacting with a human, the Aramaic says the Word.
So that makes it easy.
Awesome.
We know who the word is.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. So yeah, there's these battles going on. Jude 1:9 says this, but when the archangel Michael, contending with the devil, was disputing about the body of Moses, he did not presume to pronounce a blasphemous judgment, but said, Jehovah rebuke you. And in Zechariah 3, this thought just came to me. We have the high priest standing with Hasatan, the adversary, at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord, Jehovah, doesn't even say, I rebuke you. He says, Jehovah rebuke you. Every time you see one of these upper beings getting put in their place, it's the name of God, Jehovah, rebuke you. Always. So when I see people railing, you know, in their prayer or praying over somebody and railing after these beings, I just go, oh, we're not called to do that. We don't have that authority. We can come to the Father and say, Father, would you rebuke what's going on in my life right now? Because in Zechariah 3, he doesn't even say, I rebuke you. He says, Jehovah rebuke you. Why? Because he's using his title.
I'm also thinking of the demon who is telling Jesus, have you come to condemn me before my time? And the demon tells Jesus, you don't have that authority. He tells him, Yah hasn't given you that authority yet. Am I correct?
No, he says, he's basically begging him. He says, have you come to torment us before our time?
Mm-hmm.
And he basically says, don't send me to the place we're going to get sent now. Send us into pigs.
This verse here deals with that. It's verse 4. So it shows the
read
idea
it.
of exousia, that he has the authority of a judge. For Elohim did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell.
Hold on.
Messengers.
Messengers,
When
thank
they
you.
sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. That's an authority that's unique to Elohim alone.
Yes.
He has them bound in
Yes.
chains.
Yes. He does. I don't.
But didn't the Lord say that He had gave us all authority over? So just we need to get the authority and apply it. That's it.
Or was he speaking to the 12 apostles? I don't know. I mean, how far do you take that?
Well, he doesn't say, you now have all authority. He says, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Paul puts that the way we read it. Far above all rule, authority, power, and dominion. So, since all authority has been given to me, you go and make disciples, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you.
And free them from all the demons and everything. I don't know if you have seen, but I have seen getting the demon out of the person in the name of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach. And the name
Me
of the
too.
Lord Jesus.
So here's what we're dealing with, though. And, you know, we'll pick this up somewhere along the way on another time. Because we're going to faint if we just keep going. Demons are not sons of God. I think they're the leftovers from the death of the Nephilim. So what do they want? They want to inhabit a body. I don't want to be unclothed. So rather than send me somewhere where I'm not going to have a body, send me into a pig. And we'll all pretend we're pig lemmings and run off a cliff into the sea.
Well, then why did they kill that body? The pig body. They just got a body and then
I
they
think
killed
the
it.
pigs killed their own bodies. to
Oh,
get
I
rid of
gotcha.
them.
Yeah.
I don't think the demons
We'd rather die
killed
than
the
be
pigs.
possessed.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
You know,
When the
it's like,
Bible says Lord capital small caps, what's the original
that's
translation?
Jehovah. Yod-He Vav-He.
That's 7,000 times, and it's not.
Yeah.
Which we translate Yehovah. Or different pronunciation.
It'll be translated Lord, but that's, when you see it in small caps, that's for Hebrew letters. Yod, He, Vav-He.
Right here.
Yeah, for Purim one year, we rewrote, what was the name of that band? The Village People. YMCA?
Wow! MCA!
No, we did it this way. We're here and we're praising Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. It was fun. So, what I'm doing is presenting a picture today that I want everyone to dig into. Because when you gather this together and you put the pieces together, we end up with this picture of not a heavenly being we call Jehovah, the creator of all things, who's just kind of alone up there in the universe. We have a king with his whole court. Some of his court did not rebel against him. A third of his court did. The third of his court that did, Paul talks about rulers, authorities, powers, and dominions. Ephesians 6 talks about the armor and starts naming those different categories again. We have all these places where we're shown this picture of this heavenly court that he rules over and nobody can supersede him. Can they go against him? Sure. But they can't go against him unless they have permission. We're going to end here. Turn to, whoever was waiting for us to get here, Job chapter 1. Loaded question here. What's the oldest book in the Bible?
Job.
Job. Way older than any other. Gosh, just keep your mind open when you read about fire-breathing dragons and brontosaurus walking around. Yeah. So Job chapter 1, and I'll just read it because I can comment at the same time. Look at verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God, who?
Sons of God.
Well, here they are again.
Who are they again? Can you define sons of God? who are
They're
they?
these high-level spiritual beings.
Spiritual beings.
So what you end up with in a thoroughly Eastern Hebraic biblical view of reality is that God has all these intermediaries between him and creation. Go carry this out. Go do this. I've ordered you to do that. Go take care of him. He's fighting against us.
So now this goes okay. Yeah, he told Donald. He got Donald Trump since the boom to go to the last presidency. God did.
So he's in charge. The point of all this is Adonai, or Jehovah Echad, he's unique. He stands out. He's the God of gods. He stands out from every other Lord. He stands out from every other God. Why? He created all these beings for a purpose. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Jehovah. We saw that in 1 Kings 22. And anywhere in Job you see the word Satan, it has ha in front of it, which is Hebrew for the. It's not a proper name. It's a title.
The adversary.
The adversary. Satan in Hebrew is he adversaries.
Lowercase s, because
It's not a proper name.
Right? Okay.
It's a title.
So we made him into a proper name.
Yeah.
The translators.
Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and the adversary also came among them. So you've got all of the sons of God there, and he's walking in with the crowd. And Jehovah says to the adversary, "From where have you come?" The adversary answered Jehovah and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it." And the Lord, what does Peter say? He goes about as a prowling lion. You ever seen a prowling lion? They walk around all over the place. They go here, they go there, they go back that way. Seeking someone to devour. And Jehovah says to the adversary, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil?" And the adversary answered Jehovah and said, "Does he fear you for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house, and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face." And Jehovah said to the adversary, "Behold, all that he has is in your hand, only against him do not stretch out your hand." So the adversary went out from the presence of the Lord. What did he have to do?
Get permission.
He had to get permission.
He doesn't have control.
He does not have control. So when we go to the Shema, Yehovah Echad, he's unlike any other.
He's above. He's unique.
He's different. He's unique. He's one of a kind. There's no other like him. So if you say, well, the gods of the other nations, yeah, okay, but there's no other like him. So what I want us to take away from this today is this. Spend time this week soaking through the scriptures and writing down everywhere you find something that says to you, here he is again. He's unique. There's no other like him. Nobody even comes close.
This is why idolatry